oil rub out technique to show you how to grid your panel. And so you start with either you buy a gesso panel or you gesso one yourself, which is what I did on this one. I took a birch panel, cradled, and I taped all the edges so that I don't get schmutzik on it, which I would always do. And then I put I think I put 4 coats of Utrecht gesso on this. And I like the brush marks with the gesso. So that's the first thing you do is get your board, then you put your gloves on. And linseed oil your board first, because if you forget the linseed oil, it makes it very difficult, and I sometimes have done that. So I have pure linseed oil in a container that I got when I was coloring my hair, but I really like this container because I can just kind of easily put it on. So you kind of want to put on about that much. I have an old rag that I've used for the wipeout, but I can still use it for oiling. So I'm going to rub that on. You make sure you get every side, every spot. If it looks like there's too much oil and it's too greasy, it'll be too slicky. Or as they said when I used to live in Pittsburgh, too slippy. So, because this looks like I got a little bit extra on there, I'm going to take another rag and I'm going to wipe off some of the excess linseed oil. And that's about right. It's smooth enough you can glide over it, but it's not sloppy. And sometimes if it's a bigger board, you kind of have to look to see if there's a spot you didn't get. I got all the spots. Okay, so my board is linseed, oiled. Next, you put out your oil paints. For the oil rub out, we typically use a little bit of ultramarine blue. Rembrandt, I like the Rembrandt transparent red oxide, but I believe the Gamblin earth something is the same as the red iron oxide. Maybe it's red earth. It is a transparent. And then burnt umber. Lou Maestas and many of his rub-outs would just use the burnt umber. But we tend to use all 3. I probably put a little more red in than any of the other ones. So I'm gonna take most of this red. I'm gonna take about half of the burnt umber and about half of the blue. A little more, mix it up because the board isn't that big. And then you're gonna add oil of clove, which you can buy at any grocery store usually. For this board, I probably don't need more than 1 or 2 drops because what the oil of clove is gonna do is keep it moist so it won't dry quickly, and you can keep working on it. Particularly if you put it in the refrigerator or freezer, you can keep working on it almost forever. So you mix that up really well with the oil of clove, your 3 colors, and then sometimes, I'm not sure what I like, put that on, that's about what I want. So then you take your chip brush, and you just start chipping it on. And the chip brushes often, particularly the newer ones and the cheaper ones, they'll lose a hair. So you gotta be careful, and if you see the hair in there, try to get it out. Unless you want a mixed media painting. Yep, I just saw a hair. Should I see it here? There we go. So sometimes I need a little extra. It's still on my palette knife. And I like the different kind of brush strokes, so kind of just go back and forth, angle it, turn your wrist around, and then you have a nice colored board. There we go, perfect color. Now, next thing we're going to do is grid it. And I would highly recommend investing in a T-square. So this one's great because you can do pretty big panels with it. And all you have to do is take your T-square and go from corner to corner to start with, because we're going to make a grid where you have 16 boxes with an X in them. And you also need a Kemper tool, invaluable. So you go from corner to corner. Try to make it exact as you can. You want all the lines to cross perfectly. When you press this down, it sometimes pulls off the paint, but that's okay.
I would do it.
Otherwise, you have to stay.
Now you do the other corner to corner.
For a couple days, yeah.
Hello. One more big step. Who's yours? No. Okay. What are
Then
you making?
I'm gridding a board for an oil rub out, like the donkey there.
Well, that's cool.
So you start with this kind of color.
Yeah.
So then with your T-square, because if you put it right next to the board, you're gonna get a perfect leveled line. So then you just cross right through your crosses before.
So, you have to let that dry and then you scratch it?
No, we're gonna work on it when it's wet
Okay.
tomorrow in class. So then you've got that line, then you cross it this way.
And then what are you working on, this?
That's the one I've been demoing for the class, and the class is gonna bring the ones they've been working on.
That's on a board too.
Yep,
Huh.
he's a little wet. You might,
I'm
if you
not
touch it,
touching it.
but I'm just saying, don't get paint on you. Now you do each of the squares corner to corner. You could, I mean, if you just had a long ruler, you could do it without the.
So, then you go by each little part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You take your, you
That-
grid the board, and then you grid your picture to the same proportion, and then you start wiping out. But the grid tells you where the highlights are.
So you have a picture of this jump, okay.
Yep, yep.
I wanna do it.
Oh, well, are you local?
I'm clear in Cossack Road.
That's a little much to come down for a weekly class for 6
Yeah,
weeks.
I know. I'd love to do it.
Well, next year I might, the problem with it is a weekend workshop. It doesn't dry enough. Over the 6-week class,
Right.
you get to maybe put some color on it at the end if you
Right.
want to do that.
Oh, you use a little nib to do that?
Yeah,
I
this
just
is called a
noticed
Kemper
that.
tool.
A what?
A Kemper tool.
Kemper.
They all have different names.
Okay.
So now you take your, I'm doing
This
the video.
looks like a lot of work to me.
It's not that much. It's really fun.
Oh.
So then you take your T-square and then you connect through those lines. And through those lines.
Oh.
Then you connect through these lines.
Are you mapping these all out for the people?
I'm doing the video so they have a demo because you forget how to do all of this. So I'm going to send them the video so they can always look back at it.
Oh.
Because when I first started, I got a little confused sometimes.
Yeah, I would get confused. I'd get very
So now you've
confused.
got 16 squares,
Oh, boy.
right? But they all need an X in them because you have to have 16 X's. So now we're
Do
gonna,
you scrape off
we actually scrape off with some rags and then some Q-tips and also some other tools that have little plastic things like this on it, like a little point. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna
That's
go,
just beautiful.
thank you. I'm gonna go up this way, crossing corner to corner.
I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you.
No,
I
no, this is
didn't-
perfect. It's actually perfect. It makes it a better video.
Sorry.
No, no, it's fine. That. You then go to this one. So this is something, this is the part which gets a little tricky. You have to think, where am I? So you're that cross there, and the point's over here. And then the last one is a little square here. Now, you can turn it and do the other direction. Just do this again. Go to here. Here to there. Here to there. last one there. You guys can come in.
We're just looking,
That's okay.
just looking from afar.
So then you have 16 X's. That's the way you linseed oil, chip it on, and grit it.